Inspiring story. Millionaire revealed his heart after poor girl's incredible mistake exposure. In a sleepy Midwestern town, the annual community fundraiser buzzed with energy, laughter spilling from every corner. 17-year-old Ally stood at her lemonade stand, a worn smile on her face, but deep within, she felt the weight of the world pressing down like a heavy cloak. Her father, a proud veteran, lay in bed at home, a shell of the man he once was. The scars of war marred his spirit, and Ally poured every ounce of her youth into her 2 jobs, waiting tables at the local diner and tutoring younger kids. The unrelenting grind made her feel like a shadow, lost among the dazzling hues of wealth that brushed past her. Just as the sun painted the sky golden with the promise of summer, Ally's world flipped upside down. In a fateful moment, armed with a pitcher of lemonade and swirling hope, she turned to greet a passerby. Without warning, she tripped, and the lemonade flew, splattering over Jonathan, the town's reclusive millionaire. The buzz of the party faded into an embarrassed silence. Mortification flooded Ally's cheeks as she stammered an apology, but as laughter bubbled up, something unexpected happened. Jonathan smiled, a flicker of genuine connection cutting through the air like a warm breeze. "Guess I needed a refreshing wake-up." "Huh?" he quipped, wiping the lemonade from his suit as the crowd erupted into laughter. Ally felt something shift. Instead of the hallowed millionaire drowning in wealth, here stood a man, caught off guard yet ready to share his laughter. Their paths crossed more frequently after that day. At local events they chatted, peeling back layers of their lives. Jonathan spoke of the loneliness that swirled in his mansion. At night, he'd stare out into the dark, wondering if people would ever see him for the man he was, rather than his bank account. With every exchange, Ally's heart warmed, slowly peeling her own burdens bare. She found a kindred spirit buried beneath Jonathan's polished surface, a connection more precious than gold. But then disaster struck. The town's major employer shuttered its doors, chaos erupting in their once serene community. The fabric of their lives unraveled overnight. Jonathan's family empire began to tremble, and misunderstandings piled like yesterday's laundry. Gossip roared, clutching at their unlikely friendship with claws of judgment. The joy they shared frayed, pulling them apart as assumptions led to heartache. With uncertainty clouding the gym, Ally stood before a sea of peers at the fundraiser, her heart racing wildly, thoughts whirling like leaves in a storm. The atmosphere buzzed with tension. They needed change, she could feel it. "Listen," she shouted, her voice quaking as it sliced through the murmurs. "Do we really know who Jonathan is? He is not defined by his money. We all carry burdens. Let us be better." Her words, raw and unfiltered, echoed in the crowd, lighting eyes and pushing souls forward. Hope surged, rippling through the gathered students and parents. Yet just as the warmth swelled, a hush fell. Would she and Jonathan find a way back to each other? Could they confront their hearts amidst the chaos? The question hung in the air, pregnant with possibility, her final words sparking the flame of change, leaving everyone breathless and yearning for what could follow. Ally stood frozen in the spotlight, her heart thundering in her chest. The gym fell silent and all eyes were on her. It felt like the weight of the world rested on her shoulders. Did the crowd truly see Jonathan? Did they grasp the depth behind his well-tailored suits and perfectly manicured life? A mixture of fear and resolve surged within her. As she scanned the audience, she saw familiar faces, friends, classmates, neighbors. They had all witnessed how quickly judgment could eclipse understanding. But the sight of Jonathan, standing at the back, shifted her focus. He appeared smaller, his shoulders hunched, as the corners of his mouth twisted into a pained smile. Ally knew that whatever hope she ignited would require both of them to reach for it together. "Jonathan," she called, her voice rising above the murmurs once more. "Come here." A ripple of surprise passed through the crowd. She could read the whispers on their lips. What did she mean calling him forward? But his feet moved, almost as if they were drawn by a magnet, and soon he was at her side. As he stood next to her, the crowd shifted, curiosity etched into every face. Jonathan looked nervous but determined. The tension was palpable, the air thick with the weight of expectation. Ally turned to him and saw the vulnerability in his eyes. It was the same vulnerability she felt inside, an unspoken understanding that they were both battling monsters unseen. "We need to talk," she said, her voice steady despite the storm within. "Talk?" he replied, a cautious smile flickering at the edges of his lips. "Or are we going to have another lemonade accident?" Ally couldn't help but chuckle. "No, just words this time." With a deep breath, she faced the crowd again. This man is more than a millionaire, more than the gossip swirling around him. He is someone who is hurting, just like many of us. Her heartfelt declaration sparked murmurs of agreement. What if we judged people not by their bank accounts, but by the weight they carry every day? What if we chose to lift each other rather than tear each other down? As she spoke, the atmosphere shifted, warmth spreading like sunlight breaking through a cloudy day. People nodded, understanding beginning to blossom among them. Jonathan, emboldened, stepped closer, his voice breaking the silence. "I've lived a life of privilege, but I've also known loneliness and pain. I never wanted to let my wealth define me, yet I've struggled to connect. Ally has shown me that friendship can transcend barriers. I wish to be a part of this community, not just a figure in the background." The crowd gasped, and then applause broke out, a nervous yet electric sound that seemed to dance in the air. Ally felt a swell of pride and hope. For the first time in what felt like ages, they stood together as allies, not just in a fight for understanding, but in the pursuit of healing. But just as their moment swelled with possibility, a loud crash echoed from the back of the gym. The sound pulled everyone's attention, a sudden reminder that the chaos outside was creeping back in. "What was that?" a voice called out, panic rising. Ally's eyes darted to Jonathan. "What's happening?" she whispered, anxiety creeping back in. Could their moment of unity survive the reality that loomed outside those doors? As the audience buzzed with uncertainty, Ally and Jonathan exchanged a look, a shared determination igniting between them. They wouldn't let external pressures obstruct the bond they had begun to forge. The fight for understanding was just beginning, and the stakes were higher than ever. What lay beyond that door? And would they be ready to confront it together? The gym buzzed with tension, uncertainty hanging heavy in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. Ally felt her heart racing again, each beat echoing her fear that their moment of breakthrough could shatter. She could see the apprehension in the audience, whispers rising and falling like waves. Then there it was again, the unmistakable sound of crashing metal, a cacophony of chaos trying to invade their fragile peace. "Everyone, please stay calm," she shouted, her voice firm despite the tremor beneath it. She could sense Jonathan trembling slightly next to her, the way his hands tightened into fists. They were in this together, and that realization ignited a flicker of courage. Jonathan's eyes darted to the crowd, searching their faces for reassurance. An ally placed a steadying hand on his arm. "We need to confront whatever is happening out there. Together," she urged, her voice dropping to a whisper just for him. "Are you sure? I mean, it could be dangerous," he replied, anxiety lacing his tone. Ally smiled, hoping to quell his fears. "The only danger is if we let them divide us. We've started something good here. Let's see it through." Jonathan nodded, taking a deep breath, his shoulders shifting as if he was letting go of some weight. They turned toward the doorway where the sounds continued, filled with the kind of urgency that screamed for attention. As they stepped forward together, the audience seemed to part like a sea, each eye trained on their movement. When they reached the entrance, the buzzing of the crowd faded slightly, replaced by the sharp hiss of the closing gym door behind them. The chaotic scene outside unfolded, revealing a disarray of rushing figures and shouting voices. A small group of students had gathered, trying to sort out a confrontation that had spiraled out of control. "What do we do?" Jonathan asked, glancing around, his posture suddenly tense. Ally took a moment to observe the situation. One boy, backed against the wall, looked terrified. The others were escalating their jeers, frustration spilling over. "We've got to step in, Jonathan," she said, her voice steadying with resolve. "Are you sure?" he pressed, uncertainty painting his features again. "Yes," she affirmed, feeling a surge of confidence. "We can help." With a deep breath, they made their way into the storm. The noise swelled around them, but Ally felt a clarity forming. They had stood together earlier, united against judgment. Now they would stand together against fear. "Hey!" she called out, her voice echoing over the din. "Stop it." The crowd turned, surprised by the unexpected arrival of Ally and Jonathan. She met their eyes with determination, aware that this was about more than just one confrontation. This was about the change they had begun to create inside the gym. "Let us talk about this," Jonathan added, stepping to Ally's side and raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "We all have our struggles. No one deserves this." The jeering quieted, confused faces staring back at them. The boy pushed against the wall hesitated, the anger on his face starting to ebb. "The real battle is with ourselves," Ally continued, the words flowing freely now. "We need each other. We might look different on the outside, but that doesn't diminish our humanity." The crowd's mood shifted, tension hanging in the air, waiting for release. Would they embrace this call for understanding? As silence enveloped them, Ally's heart raced once more. Were they ready to listen, to connect beyond labels and preconceived notions? Her eyes darted to Jonathan, and in that moment, she realized this was the true test of their courage. But then the unexpected happened. Someone from the back shouted, "Who do you think you are?" The question hung in the air, challenging everything they had just attempted to build. In that silence, Ally took a deep breath, weighing her next words. What if this was the moment they had both been dreading, the point at which all their hopes could just collapse? Could she find the words to unite them, to truly break down the walls that divided? Or would their bravery crumble under pressure? As she opened her mouth, she felt the weight of all their gazes and held tight onto Jonathan's hand. Was this the beginning of something transformative, or just another reminder of the struggle ahead? "Who do you think you are?" The voice sliced through the tension like a knife. It came from a tall student in the back, arms crossed defiantly. The murmurs rippled through the crowd, rekindling fear and doubt among the students gathered before Ally and Jonathan. Ally felt Jonathan's grip tighten around her hand, the warmth of his palm anchoring her in that moment of chaos. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest, but somewhere beneath that fear, a voice urged her to push forward. These were young lives hanging in the balance, waiting for a spark of hope amid their turmoil. "Just two people trying to make a difference," she replied, her voice steadying as she searched the room for understanding. "We're not here to put anyone down. We're here to lift each other up." "But why should we listen to you?" The boy fired back, his expression a mix of anger and confusion. "You don't know what it's like. You don't understand." Ally felt her resolve deepen. "You're right. I don't know everything, but I do know how it feels to be hurt. I know what it's like to be on the outside and want to belong." The boy's brow furrowed, curiosity battling with skepticism. A few others around him nodded slightly, perhaps resonating with her words. But the tension still hung thick. Look around. Jonathan stepped in, glancing at the group gathered. "We're all here, aren't we? You might think we're different, but we're not so far apart. What if we shared our stories instead of throwing punches? What could we learn?" A moment stretched out as they processed what he said. There was a flicker of something in the crowd, hesitance mixed with a spark of interest. "Who wants to go first?" Ally urged, feeling her heart swell with hope. "We can open up this dialogue. This doesn't have to end here with anger." The boy still leaned against the wall, arms uncrossing slightly. Ally took it as a sign of vulnerability creeping in. "I guess it just feels like no one cares. Everyone wants to gang up on each other instead," he admitted, shaking his head. "And that's why we need each other," Jonathan responded gently. "We need to care more, to lift each other up rather than tear each other down. Honestly, what good will come from further confrontation?" More silence followed, but this time it felt different. She could sense a shift, a shared breath among them. Slowly, others began to step forward. A girl with bright blue hair shared her story of being bullied for her appearance. A boy with glasses talked about feeling invisible in the crowd. With each shared story, the tension began to lift like fog giving way to sunlight. Voices began to rise and overlap in empathy, highlighting how they had all battled their own demons. But behind the connection there still lurked shadows of fear. Someone in the back shouted, "It's easy to say things now. What happens when we go back in there? You think it'll just change?" Ally felt her heart sink slightly. It was a reality check. They had to confront the truth of what was ahead. And fear was still a very real factor. "We'll be okay as long as we remember this moment together," Ally replied, her determination shining through. "Let us not just leave it here. Let us be brave. Let us carry this connection back and challenge the norm." She locked eyes with Jonathan, who nodded slightly as if to say they were all in it together, come what may. As the crowd began to buzz with nervous excitement, Ally felt a surge of hope. But then she noticed the boy who had first challenged them shifting uncomfortably, still unsure. "Will you stand by us when it gets tough?" he asked quietly. The air thickened again as the weight of his question hung there, vulnerable yet profound. Ally opened her mouth to respond, ready to affirm their collective resolve amid uncertainty. But what would she say? Would the connection they deformed last in the face of adversity? As her mind raced, Ally felt the room's energy shift once more, and she knew that this was just the beginning of a hard, beautiful battle ahead. The room felt electric, the air thick with hope and doubt swirling around like a storm waiting to break. "We can do this," Ally thought desperately, searching for the right words. "We have to do this." The boy stared up at her, the challenge still lingering in his eyes. "Will you really be there?" he pressed once more, vulnerability seeping through his bravado. "Yes," she said, feeling conviction surge through her. "We are in this together. No one should face their battles alone." More murmurs spread through the group, uncertainty battling with the dawning realization that maybe, just maybe, they could begin to shift the narrative. A girl with short hair and a hesitant smile stepped forward, eyes bright with curiosity. "What if we start something right now? Like a club or a group?" "That's it," Jonathan exclaimed, a burgeoning grin lighting up his face. "A support group where we all feel safe to share without judgment. We all have things to say." "Yeah, but what if we mess up?" A tall girl with bright purple sneakers looked doubtful, her voice wavering. "What if we can't change anything?" The weight of her words settled in the room, and for a moment, it felt like the light dimmed. "But what happens if we don't try at all?" Ally countered, heart racing. What's scarier? The thought of failing or staying silent? Her question hung there, a challenge that demanded an answer. "I think staying silent is worse," the boy finally confessed, his voice steady. "It's like you're screaming inside, but no one can hear you." Slowly, the others began to nod. They shared that same feeling. It formed a bond, a shared acknowledgement of the struggles they all faced every single day. "I want to feel heard," one of the boys in the front spoke up. "I'm tired of hiding." "Then let us not hide anymore." Jonathan's excitement overflowed, fanning the flames of courage igniting within them. "Let us meet here every week. We can create our own space, a sanctuary." Ally's heart soared as the energy shifted again, sparking fire in each of them. Eyes filled with determination replaced the uncertainty. She felt a rush of energy as she watched these young people begin to connect, the walls that once isolated them slowly falling away. "Okay," the boy who had first challenged them said, his earlier defiance fading. "If we're doing this, I'll join. But I want it to be real. No fake smiles. Just realness. Realness is all we're offering," Ally assured him, her heart swelling with gratitude. "All stories welcome, everyone's truth matters." As agreement rippled through the group, a sense of hope began to root itself deeply. Yet, in the back of her mind, Ally couldn't shake the thought. Would they really stick together when the going got tough? Would they have the courage to stand united in a world that often tried to separate them? The bell rang, jolting them from their moment of connection. Students filtered from classrooms, and chaos began to reignite in the hallways. "Okay, same time next week?" Jonathan called, trying to keep the spark alive. Absolutely, one of the girls said as she stepped into the crowd. I'll tell my friends. However, as people began to drift apart, Ally noticed the hesitant boy lingering, glancing back. I hope you two mean what you said, he murmured, anxiety creeping back into his voice. Every word, Jonathan replied firmly. But would their words hold weight when push came to shove? Ally couldn't help but wonder, feeling that familiar pang of doubt. As they stepped out of the room, the world felt heavier, more daunting, and yet balanced on a new edge of possibility. What awaited them outside, the camaraderie they built today or the isolation that often loomed around the corner? That question hung in the air, heavy with a mix of excitement and fear. Ally fought to breathe through the uncertainty, knowing that the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Would they rise to the occasion, transforming their fear into strength? Or would they crumble when real challenges came to test them? And just as that thought settled in her mind, a commotion echoed down the hall, shifting the energy once again. Something unexpected could be stirring, and Ally sensed the crucial moment ahead. Ally glanced down the hall, where a crowd had gathered, their voices a frenzy of excitement and concern. Curiosity twisted in her stomach, both a pull to see what was happening and a fear of what it could mean. Whatever was going on, it was clearly significant enough to capture everyone's attention, pulling them away from their own thoughts and insecurities. Let us check it out, Jonathan said, his eyes wide with anticipation. He nudged Ally, but she hesitated, fear gnawing at her. They had just taken a step toward a new path, and now this disruption felt overwhelming. Do you think it's something good? She asked, her voice barely audible over the din. Jonathan shrugged, brow furrowed. Only one way to find out. With a deep breath, Ally let the buzz of excitement carry her forward. They wove through the halls, the crowd parting to let them through. As they got closer, the source of the ruckus came into view. A boy from the senior class, known for his status and wealth, stood on a table, his friends cheering him on. But something twisted in his expression showed he wasn't just trying to show off. Listen up, everyone, he shouted, voice booming. I have something important to say. The crowd hushed suddenly, anticipation radiating through the air. Ally felt a shiver, sensing that this moment might shift something in their world. But she wasn't sure how. I know that I've always acted like I'm untouchable, he continued, his confidence wavering. Like nothing could ever get to me. But that essay lie. I've been struggling with stuff too. I can't do this alone anymore. And I don't want anyone else to feel that way. Ally exchanged glances with Jonathan, confusion clouding her thoughts. Was he admitting vulnerability? Did it mean he once felt the isolation they had talked about? A long silence engulfed the crowd as they processed his words. I want to start a project, he declared, his eyes scanning the audience. A community fund, money for those who need it. I want us to work together, no one left out any longer. Gasps spread like wildfire, and while cheers erupted, Ally could feel her stomach twisting tighter. Community fund? It sounded good, but could someone with his privilege truly understand what it meant to struggle alongside them? Are you serious? A girl yelled from the back. You think your money can fix things? The question hung heavy, a mirror reflecting all the doubts about sincerity. The boy hesitated, surprise flickering across his face. Maybe not fix everything, but it's a start. I want to help, to listen. What do you need? Ally's heart raced as veins of hope twisted with skepticism. It felt like an opportunity and a threat. People were gathering to either support him or tear him down. Will you come to our support group? Jonathan blurted out, surprising Ally. It's just starting, and if you truly want to connect, it's important. The boy paused, caught off guard but intrigued. Yeah, I'd like to. A murmur swept through the crowd, some impressed, others doubtful. Ally found herself yearning for something real to evolve from this chaotic moment. Could a boy from the upper echelons really change his ways? Or was this another facade? A fleeting moment like so many before? As the group began to disperse, the questions bounced around Ally's mind feverishly. What if this was their chance? They could invite him into their circle and see how far this connection could stretch. But would he really understand the depths of their struggles? With a feeling of purpose sparking anew, Ally turned to Jonathan, determination setting in her bones. We need to reach out. All of us. As they stepped back into the maze of the hallways, question upon question buzzed through her thoughts. Would the support group really become what they needed? Would this boy's involvement prove to be a help or a hindrance? And just as she thought she had the answers, her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was a message from the boy who had lingered after their meeting. His words simple yet heavy. I'm in. But can you promise me this won't be just another empty promise? Ally felt a rush of emotion. This was only the beginning. The storm they had stirred up had barely started to break. Each step forward now felt both thrilling and terrifying. What lay ahead when the crowd dispersed and reality took hold? Ally sat on the edge of her bed, her phone still buzzing in her hand as she reread the boy's message. Can you promise me this won't be just another empty promise? The weight of his words settled in her chest like a stone. Did she even know what a promise like that meant? She stared at the blank wall, her mind racing. What's up? Jonathan asked, leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed as he watched the internal struggle play out on her face. His message, it feels different. I guess I didn't expect him to care. Ally replied, her voice barely above a whisper. What if we mess this up? What if it all goes wrong? Jonathan stepped inside, closing the door gently behind him. We have to take a chance, Ally. We can't let fear hold us back. What if this is our opportunity to make real change? The two of them began brainstorming what the support group could look like. They scribbled ideas on a piece of paper, activities, topics to discuss, and who they could invite. Ally felt a spark of hope ignite in her chest. She wanted to believe that this could be a turning point, not just for them but for the entire school. The following week passed in a blur of planning. The support group was set for Friday. Excitement mingled with anxiety as students started to trickle in. Ally sat at the front, Jonathan beside her, a mix of nerves and anticipation dancing between them. When the boy arrived, the atmosphere shifted. His presence commanded attention, but Ally could see hesitance in the way he walked. Wearing his privilege like armor, he hovered uncertainly near the door. For a split second, Leah, a quiet girl from class, caught his eye. Fear flashed across her face, and Ally understood. Fear of judgment, fear of vulnerability. Hey everyone, the boy said, his voice steady yet vulnerable. I really appreciate you all being here. I want to learn from you, not just talk at you. I know my life feels different from many of yours, but I promise I want to understand. A murmured response came from the room, a hesitant acceptance of his admission. Ally felt her heart pounding. This was new territory. Could they really connect? Or would this end up being another superficial conversation? As the group began to share, stories flooded the space, stories of pain, loneliness, and small triumphs that reflected their struggles. With every tale, the boy began to shift. He asked questions, listening intently, and began sharing his own experiences, moments of isolation that lurked behind the facade of wealth. When it was Leah's turn to speak, her voice trembled, but the honesty behind each word struck a chord. Sometimes, I think it's easier to disappear, she admitted, her eyes filling with tears. I feel invisible even in a crowded room. I just want to be seen. The boy looked at her, really looked, as if he was trying to pull something from her that she might not even have known she contained. You're visible, Leah. We all see you, he said softly, his sincerity cutting through the tension. Ally's heart ached. This was the connection she had hoped for. A newfound understanding beginning to blossom against the backdrop of their individual struggles. As they wrapped up the meeting, the boy's eyes met Ally's. I want to continue this, he said. Can we do it weekly? Hope swelled within her, but it was tempered by uncertainty. This was just the beginning, after all. Yes, she answered instinctively, but it's going to take everyone's commitment. The relief in the room was palpable, but Ally knew they were only scratching the surface. Later that night, as Ally laid in bed thinking over the evening, her phone buzzed again. It was a message from Hunter, the boy who had surprised them all. I didn't expect to feel so connected. I mean it when I say I want to help. But there's something I need to tell you something I haven't told anyone. Ally felt a chill spread down her spine. What could he possibly reveal that would change everything? She held her breath, waiting for that next message to drop. The storm was coming, and they were just getting started. Ally's fingers trembled as she stared at her phone screen, willing Hunter's next message to come through. The silence stretched, heavy and thick, and her heart raced in anticipation. What could possibly be so significant that he had to tell her after such a powerful first meeting? Finally, the screen lit up again. I haven't been honest with you guys, it read. I'm not just here for the group. There's more to my story. She felt a rush of confusion and curiosity. Hunter had already shared so much, but now it seemed like a curtain was going to be pulled back, revealing something deeper. Ally quickly typed back. What do you mean? Are you okay? A moment later, he replied. Let's talk in person. I think it's better that way. Can we meet tomorrow after school? Her mind whirled. The vulnerability he had previously shown was profound, yet the weight of this request felt heavier. What could he say that deserved a face-to-face discussion? She agreed, and after a few messages, they settled on meeting at a nearby park. The next day crawled by agonizingly slow. In class, she struggled to concentrate, the conversation replaying like a broken record in her mind. By the time school was out, Ally's nerves were frayed. As she stepped outside, the fading sunlight cast long shadows across the pavement. She spotted Hunter sitting on a bench, fiddling with a bracelet around his wrist, a nervous tic that contradicted his usual poise. Ally approached, her heart thumping louder with each step. Hey, she said quietly, taking a seat beside him, the space between them feeling both distant and intimate. Thanks for coming, he replied, looking down for a moment before meeting her gaze. This isn't easy for me, but I need you to understand where I'm coming from. Ally nodded, giving him the floor. I'm listening. Well, he took a deep breath, his expression shifting from nervousness to determination. I haven't told anyone this, not even my closest friends. I don't want sympathy or to be treated differently, but it feels wrong to keep this a secret from you guys after what we've shared. Her stomach nodded, and the air felt charged with unspoken truths. You can tell me anything. I promise it stays between us. Hunter glanced around, ensuring they were alone. I've been struggling. My family isn't what it seems. We're not just wealthy, we're pretty deeply in debt. He paused, searching for words. Most of my friends only care about status and money. I'm terrified that if they find out, they'll turn their backs on me. His admission hung in the air, and Ally could feel the weight he carried. That's so hard, she said softly, her empathy expanding as she thought of all the times she'd felt unseen or burdened. But something nagged at her. So what does that mean for you? I mean, you could have reached out to us. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I was afraid of being seen as weak. I pushed everyone away to protect this image. But last week, I watched you guys connect, and it was like a light went on for me. It made me realize how lonely I really am. Her heart swelled with compassion. You don't have to wear a mask with us, Hunter. We all have struggles. Hunter nodded, eyes shimmering with a mixture of relief and fear. I know, but I also don't want to ruin what we've started. You guys are changing things for me, and I'm scared you'll think less of me or that I'll drag everyone down. Ally felt her chest tighten. His vulnerability resonated deeply. You're not alone in this. We're building this group to lift each other up, remember? Your honesty is part of that. We're here for each other, really here. He held her gaze, the fear easing a bit as they shared an unspoken understanding. Just then, her phone buzzed again. Another message from Jonathan. Are we still on for the meeting tonight? We need to keep the momentum going. Without looking away from Hunter, Ally texted back a quick affirmative. Her thoughts raced. Hunter's revelation could bring them closer, but could it also break apart the fragile connection they were trying to build? I want to be honest too, she finally said, turning serious. We've got each other's backs, but we have to be careful with the truth. Hunter nodded, the glint of hope mixed with uncertainty in his eyes. They were learning a shared lesson about vulnerability, But with every revelation, the stakes felt higher. As the shadows lengthened around them, Ally knew this was just the beginning. A storm was brewing, and they were only starting to understand its power. What else would they uncover about themselves along the way? The air felt electric as Ally and Hunter sat together, the park around them fading into a blur. With each beat of her heart, she sensed a shift in the atmosphere, a quiet intensity building between them. The sounds of children laughing and playing on the nearby swings felt like a stark contrast to the weight of their conversation. "I can't help but wonder," Ally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if your friends find out? What would happen then?" Hunter sighed deeply, his eyes clouding over with something akin to dread. "I've spent so long creating this armor. What if it shatters? I don't know who I'd be without it." His hands clenched into fists as he spoke, tension radiating from him. "Maybe it's time to find out," Ally countered gently. "If they care more about money than you, are they really your friends?" He looked at her, mouth slightly agape. "I'm not ready for that kind of truth," he admitted. "Sometimes, I wish I could just become someone else, someone the world could accept. But then I think of you guys. You've made me feel like I belong regardless of the money." Ally felt a warmth spread in her chest. "You belong with us, Hunter. We're not a group based on status." She hesitated, stirring her thoughts. "Maybe you don't need to tell everyone everything right away. Start with us, let that be your safe space." He nodded slowly, as if weighing her words against his fears. "Maybe, but what if I lose everything?" The slightest tremor in his voice tugged at her heart. "You won't lose us," she promised, barely containing the resolve in her voice. "We're a team. You're a part of that. Whatever happens, we'll be here." There was a moment of silence, and the rustling leaves seemed to echo the weight of their conversation. Then, Hunter smiled faintly, the flicker of hope igniting his eyes. "You really mean it? That I can talk to you about this stuff?" "Absolutely. We all have our secrets, Hunter. It's what makes us human." She took a breath. "And maybe those secrets connect us in ways we don't even realize." As if they were in synchronicity, both turned their heads to the setting sun, its golden rays painting the park with a warm glow. Ally felt a mix of gratitude and urgency. She understood they were standing at a crossroad. Whatever decision Hunter made would not only shape his path but could alter the dynamic of their entire group. Just then, a familiar voice floated through the air. "Ally! Hunter! There you are." It was Jonathan, jogging toward them, a contagious energy bubbling from him. "We've got to discuss tonight's meeting. The vibe is strong." Ally's heart sank slightly. As much as she loved Jonathan's enthusiasm, it felt like an intrusion into this moment of clarity. She quickly glanced back at Hunter, a silent inquiry in her gaze. His expression had shifted, a hint of dread creeping back. Would this disrupt their progress? Ally felt a pang of anxiety. "Hey, Jonathan," she called back. I've been thinking about what we can brainstorm tonight," he interrupted, oblivious to the weight still in the air. But Hunter's eyes darted away, and the vulnerability they had just shared felt like it was slipping through her fingers. "Yeah, we'll be there," Hunter replied, his voice quieter now, the walls seemingly re-erecting around him. The hope from moments before had started to fade, replaced again by the familiar armor. As Jonathan chattered about plans and ideas, Ally's mind raced. Had they just taken a step forward only to pull back? As they stood to leave, Ally felt Hunter's warmth beside her, but it was quickly eclipsed by uncertainty. What new truths would they confront tonight? Would they have the courage to face whatever came next? The sun dipped below the horizon, leaving them in a twilight that felt both comforting and foreboding. Ally's stomach twisted, knowing the real journey was just beginning. What would they discover about each other in the meeting to come? The gym buzzed with a mixture of excitement and anxiety as Ally, Jonathan, and Hunter faced a room filled with eager faces, waiting for the meeting to begin. Rows of students found places on the bleachers, each one grappling with their own personal challenges, yet bound by a common desire for connection. Ally felt a surge of determination rise within her. They had come so far, and now was the moment to affirm their commitment to each other. "Hey everyone, Thanks for being here, Ally called, her voice clear and steady, cutting through the murmurs. She exchanged a glance with Jonathan and Hunter, who stood by her side like pillars of strength. This is our space. A chance to lift each other up, to share our stories, beyond what others see on the surface. A ripple of agreement flowed through the crowd. Ally could see the hope flicker in their faces, mingling with the weight of apprehension that seemed to hang in the air. We want to make this real, and that starts with honesty. She felt her heart race. This was her moment to speak the truth she'd tried to weave together over the past few weeks. I know we've all battled our own demons, she said, her gaze sweeping across the audience. But standing together, we can face those challenges, no matter how heavy they feel. Jonathan stepped forward, his eyes shining with passion. We're here not only to talk but to listen. This isn't about looking perfect. It's about being vulnerable. Everyone has a story, and it matters. My name might come with a family fortune, but I felt loneliness too. I want to know what you feel. A young girl from the back raised her hand nervously, and Ally nodded for her to go ahead. I feel like nobody really sees me. I'm here, but I want to feel heard, not just brushed aside. Ally's heart ached for her. You're not invisible, she replied earnestly. We see you. We all do. This space is built on the truth that everyone matters. Share what you want. This is yours too. As the conversation flowed, students began to open up. One by one, stories poured out, tales of heartache, laughter, and triumphs. Each voice wove a thread into the fabric of their tapestry, strengthening the bonds among them. Then Hunter stood up hesitantly, his palms sweating as he faced the room. I have something to share too, he began, glancing nervously at Ally. His bravery pushed her own heart to swell further. My family's struggling, and I've been embarrassed about it. I tried to keep it hidden, pretending everything was fine. But you all inspired me to tell the truth, and I hope you'll see me for who I really am. A moment of heavy silence fell over the gym. Then a boy from the front spoke up. You think you're alone? I get that. Let us help each other, man. Seriously, we can face it together. Relief washed over Hunter's face, and he sighed, his shoulders relaxing. The fear that had gripped him began to dissolve as arms welcomed support. The sudden burst of camaraderie left them all buzzing with renewed hope and energy. Ally took a deep breath, sensing an unspoken commitment. I think we need to continue this outside of these walls. Let us plan activities, brainstorm within our group, and grow stronger together. A resounding cheer erupted. Laughter and voices mingled in an infectious chorus that echoed through the gym. Moments like this felt monumental, marking shifts in their community that no one could ignore. But even amid the joy, a hint of uncertainty lingered in Ally's heart. Would they stay committed when the real struggles came knocking? As if reading her thoughts, Jonathan squeezed her hand, a silent promise binding them together. Just then, a disruptive buzz from Ally's phone broke the moment. She glanced down and saw a notification from a friend reporting an incident involving bullying in the cafeteria. Oh no, she muttered, concern rippling through her. Ally? Jonathan asked concernedly. We need to do something. Now. With urgency coursing through her, she turned to the group. We can't just talk about being there for each other. We need to show it. Who's with me? With a wall of voices, rallying with agreement, the momentum of their unity charged forward. They poured out into the hallway, hearts racing with purpose. As they approached the cafeteria, Ally looked around to see the faces of her friends, the comfort of knowing they were in this together filling her with resolve. Stay together, hold tight, Ally urged, leading the charge. There in that moment, she realized this was more than just about a support group or individual struggles. This was about fostering a community, truly standing up for each other, knitting their experiences together until they formed an unstoppable force. When they burst into the cafeteria, the noise fell silent. Tension hung thick in the air, eyes darting to the center. A boy backed into the corner, surrounded by others jeering and taunting. Hey, Ally called, her voice steady and clear. Enough of this. You don't need to keep tearing each other down. We can do better. The jeers turned to shocked silence, and as the stunned crowd turned their attention to her, she felt a rush of determination bloom within. We're not standing for this. We're here to support each other, not break each other apart. Jonathan stepped forward alongside her, anger and compassion flaring in his voice. Let us use our voices to lift each other up, without judgment. No one should feel alone or afraid. Slowly, others began to join them in solidarity. Ally felt a swell of power, a wave of change was washing over them. Finally, after what seemed like ages, the taunting stopped, and more students began to approach the boy who had been cornered. With trembling hands but a new fire in his eyes, the boy whispered, "Thank you." Ally recognized that their bold stand meant something. They were not just a group turned to compassion. They had ignited a movement. As the cafeteria filled with laughter and acceptance once more, she felt an overwhelming sense of triumph. Their journey together was unfolding in ways she had only begun to dream about. With one last glance around the room, she made a silent promise. They would keep this momentum going. They would fight for each other. And maybe, just maybe, they could transform not just their school, but their town one act of love at a time. The future looked bright, and together, they would illuminate the path ahead. This was it. A new chapter beginning, driven by courage, friendship, and an unyielding will to change the narrative. Now, Ally knew it wasn't just about finding their voices. It was about using them to uplift and inspire one another in ways they had only begun to explore. And as she left the cafeteria, hand in hand with Jonathan and the others, the sense of family welled up, pushing away any lingering doubt. Together, they had become a force for good, and she was ready for whatever came next. Don't wait not even one more second. You need to subscribe now to the channel. Don't miss the next exclusive stories that inspire and uplift you. Leave a like to fuel the algorithm. Every click counts. Comment below with your thoughts about this ending and how you feel. Join the conversation. Your voice matters. And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible transformation. It's your moment to show your support and spread the message of unity and strength.